All right. Hello, everyone. Just taking a second before getting started. Okay. So, for those that don't know, this gym of mine is a fan-made Pokemon game where you play as the gym leader for the town that you're in. And aside from doing your gym leader duties, you're also, participating or dealing with whatever's happening with the story. So it's not like you're just in the gym all day, but you could say that that is the main part of the game. Is basically just defending your gym. But along with that, pretty much from the start of the game, you get access to a signature move for whatever typing that you chose, and all these moves are different from one another in some way, shape, or form. And so some are better than others, which is why I have this tier list that I decided to make. Um, I have not had the time yet to play with every typing. I have dabbled with like at least half of them. So I have some knowledge of my own. Obviously, if you have played with the typing more than I have, then maybe you'll have more insight and maybe you'll be like, hey, that shouldn't go in that part of the tier list. That shouldn't go in B tier. That should go in A tier or whatever the heck. So, um, this isn't perfect, but I'm going to do my best to rank these as best as possible. It may take some time, but it is what it is. I have uh, the best images that I could come up with for each move without spending too much time on it. So excuse me for it not being perfect, but it is what it is. I also have them in order according to the type chart that you could look up. So it goes from normal to fairy. And I will talk about each as I go through, starting with what typing I'm talking about, what the move is, what I think it's good for, how I think it's bad, if it is, and then from there, if I think it needs to be changed, I will say what I think it should be changed to, or how I would change it if I was the one that made it. Um, so yeah, let me go ahead and get started. So we have the normal one. So right off the bat, let's just say what this is. So this is a move that does no damage, and it should have. If it shows like nothing with accuracy, then that means that this will always work. I'm assuming if you're confused though, then you still have a chance of hitting yourself in confusion. But other than that, it should always go off. Um, so it's called Liberation, and what it does is the user moves with skill and grace, creating a freeing atmosphere. So atmosphere is a part of the game um, that, to my knowledge, isn't in any of the base games. But in this world, atmosphere is like a overworldly status, like terrain or weather, or is there another one? No, I don't think so. So yeah, terrain, weather, and the creator of this game decided to have atmosphere be a third thing, and there are a few different atmosphere conditions, and freeing atmosphere is one of them. And this, I'm not 100% with this, but what I do know is that regarding normal types, it'll boost normal type attacks by 30%. I don't know if it boosts any other types. I'm sure it does, but that's all I know for now, and that's all that's important regarding normal types, right? Um, with some other reasons, like if you're a normal type, let's say it also boosts dark moves. I don't know if it does, but let's just say it does. So let's say you're a normal type that has a dark move, maybe it'll boost that too. I don't know. I'm saying so that is possible, but I know for sure that it boosts normal moves. So regarding the tier that this should go in, I would probably say C. Just because, like, okay, so the way I want to go about put it, like, deciding what tier something goes in, regards like just overall usage. So like, Is it a damaging move? And if so, does it do a lot of damage? Is it a status move? And is it worth using? Can all of your mons learn it, or most of them? Etc., etc. So I haven't played enough with normal types to know if all normal mons can learn Liberation. Um, I would imagine so, with maybe a few that cannot for whatever reason. But someone prove me wrong if you know better. So there's that. It's not a damaging move, which is already a minus. It already drops down 1 tier because of that. It is a move that's kind of like a setup move, and it helps your whole team, which is a plus. So I might even, if I was nice, I would put it in B tier. I would say it probably goes at the bottom of B tier, because it could be better, but it's alright. If this did some damage, like, me and my friend talked about this, where this move would be probably A tier if they decided to make it a damaging move, where when you use it, it does damage, but you can only use it if there isn't any freeing atmosphere. If there is freeing atmosphere, this move fails, right? But so like if there is freeing atmosphere, or then it fails. But if there's any kind of other atmosphere, or if there is no atmosphere, then you can use the move, and it does 100 damage. So like it's a move you can only use once, but it does a lot of damage. And 100 damage is pretty good. Like, it's pretty what's the word? Not buffed in. Balanced. It's pretty balanced, because normal never, ever, ever hits anything super effectively. So you're never going to have that boost where, like, oh, it's going to hit this super effectively, so it basically kills it. No. So 100 isn't too bad when you think about it that way, and then obviously it would be stabbed. So basically it'd be 150 damage, but normal. So, and the fact that you can only use it once per 5 turns or something, that's pretty good if you ask me. Yeah. So if you're just fighting a mon in the wild, I mean, if you're trying to capture it, you shouldn't be using this move, right? But if you're just fighting a mon in the wild, yes, you can just click it to, you know, kill it and move on, or you could just click run. So, like, that's whatever. But when you're fighting in a battle of, like, I don't know, against 3 mons or 4 mons, you can only use this move once against one of the mons. Even if you kill that, there's something else after that. So it's not too strong that way. And that way, that would be like A tier, maybe bottom of S tier. But with it being just a non-damaging move, it's just going to sit in B tier. Oh, and one last thing about that. So we thought of making it like a stronger version of Fake Out, where it actually, like, you know, has priority, moves first, and makes them flinch, just because you can only use it once every 5 times or so. We thought that wouldn't be so bad. But either version of that, where it doesn't make them flinch, or it does, we would take, because that is better than the current version. Alright, Friction. Friction can go in S tier. It is well made, well designed. Let's see. So the description is, the user heats up their body and burns the opponent, may burn the target. So it has a chance of burning, and it does 85 damage. And it's physical. So the good things about this, it's a physical move, which is great because there are plenty of good special fire type moves. So, for example, the first one that comes to mind is Flamethrower. Flamethrower does 90 damage and has a chance to burn, and is a special move. So any special attacking fire types that you might have that, so they have that covered. Like, they'll always have that as an option, and if they want to do more damage, they can go with Fire Blast, which has less accuracy, or if they don't have access to Flamethrower yet, then oh well. But, you know, the whole point is they have coverage, they have their own move already, so it's really great that the creator thought of, like, okay, so the physical fire mons need to have something, so here you go. So this is still, like, even the mons that are more of a special attacker can use this move in the beginning of the game when you just basically started. If you somehow have a special attacking fire type, you can still use this because it does good damage in the beginning. But once you get to that point where, okay, learn flamethrower with my special attacking mons. I can use that. You can basically just diversify, so like, you know, your physical guys get friction and your special guys get flamethrower, and you're set. So that's really awesome. It does good damage. If I had to change this, the only thing I would do is either A, give it a higher chance to burn just for some more uniqueness, so like more than just the normal chance of burning, or B, just raise the power to like 90 or 95, just so it's like, you know, more on par with flamethrower than just 85. So one or the other, but otherwise it's fine. I would say it's not top of S tier, so eventually something else that comes in S tier will be higher than it, but it's definitely up there. And if I was gonna be like really strict or just stingy or whatever, I would go with A tier. Like this, you don't get much better than this. All right, water is next. I'm gonna put this in B tier. All right. Well, let me talk about it first, and then I'll decide after that. Right? Just give me 1 second, real quick. Okay. So, in theory, this move is great, and it has a lot of potential, and I'll explain once I talk about it. So, this move is called Dredge, and it is a physical move, which is great because, I mean, the water types already have good physical and special moves, regarding, how do I put this? So, like, Watermons have Surf for special, or Scald if you don't want to do a spread damaging move in fear of hurting your partner. Scald is 80 power and has a chance to burn, so that's pretty cool. And then on the physical side, you have Waterfall and Liquidation. So they're pretty much covered. And this move, unfortunately, is weaker than all of those, with it only being 75, so that's already something. The user dives in search of something restoring a consumed item. So, unfortunately, and for some reason, I really strongly advise changing this. This move will fail if you do not have an item that you used or consumed. Which is weird to me, because I feel like, at the very least, it should just do base 75 water damage regardless of whether you have an item or not. Not being able to use your signature move for a while is really bad, you know, off rip. Like, the signature move, like, really helps you in the beginning just to give you that edge over enemy Pokemon, because they will have the strength in numbers more often than not, while you just have your one starter until you eventually get your second Mon or third Mon, whatever. And you want your starter Mon to be strong, like a strong contender that can take on those, you know, enemy Mons. So not being able to use your signature move right away really sucks. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about how exactly this move can be used, but I know for sure that this will fail if you do not have an item. I don't know if maybe the game will allow you to use the move if you have an item but not an item that's consumed. Like if you're just holding a Pokeball, just so you have something in the item slot, or if you're holding an actual useful item but not something that can be used or consumed. I don't know if that'll still work then. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it actually has to be a consumable item. And speaking of those, I have played through this game up until the point where it says the demo is over and you basically have to wait for the creator to continue updating it. And up until that point, I've gotten one, maybe two, but I can only think of one off the top of my head, items that are consumable in this game. And that being one citrus berry that I found in the wild. So that means just like, once you consume that one citrus berry, you can use this move to get it back, which is great, but it's not like you're always going to be put in the position where your citrus berry has to proc. And so when I read this move, when I first saw it, my initial thought was like, okay, so if you use Water Gem and using that consumes like using this move consumes the water gem. It boosts the damage, plus all the boosts, like, you know, stab boost and possibly super effective and whatnot. It makes this do unga bunga damage, and that's awesome. And the second that you use it, you get the item back because of the description of this move, so you constantly are able to do unga bunga damage with water gem. That's great in theory, on paper, except I have not seen anywhere where I can get a water gem in this game yet. Hopefully that'll change once we get to the later stages of the game where you're able to get to rank 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere there. Or, I mean, anywhere at any point, then this would be great. But again, having to wait for a while to be able to do that is really bad. And that's why I'm putting it in B tier, because the potential for this is S tier, but that's later in the game. If, maybe. And up until then, it's, like, literally useless. Which is why, like, with it being useless for now, it's D tier, but potentially great later in the game makes it S tier, so that's why it's literally down the middle in B tier. Give me 1 second. Alright. Next one. Electric Rolling Thunder. I'm not putting this in B tier, I'm just putting it here so you guys can see it well better. We'll see where it goes. So anyways, it's called Rolling Thunder, and it's a special move, and it's 40 base power, 100% accuracy. A fierce storm that rages around a foe for 4 to 5 turns, boosting users' electric moves. So, right off the bat, this is pretty mid. It seems pretty cool. I don't know at this moment what the exact percentage boost is to your electric moves. But that part is cool. But if you just take that away for a second, then you're basically looking at an electric version of, I believe it's called Sand Tomb? Sand Tomb or Whirlpool for the water version. I know there's a ground in the water version. I don't know. Oh, Infestation for bug. There's a fire version too that I can't remember. But basically, this is the electric version of that. And the base power is, I want to say, the highest out of all of the examples, because I think the other ones do like 30, 35 damage. This does 40, so that's cool. And of course, like I said, it has that secondary benefit or effect where it boosts your electric moves in the meantime. I guess because, like, I guess the thought process there is, like, if while they're surrounded by this electrical storm or whatever you want to call it, yeah, it's just electrical fierce storm, yeah. While they're surrounded by the electrical storm, any electrical attacks that you should do to it in the meantime while it's still alive or not fainted, will damage it further, because, like, the electricity is, like, you know, if you're hurling electricity at something that's already electrified, it's just going to do unga bunga damage, that thought process. But regardless of however you want to imagine it for boosting it, the important part is that it's boosting it, right? So that's cool. So if you don't already one-shot something, or if you're facing something that's really tanky, then this will help against that, pretty much. Otherwise, you can just rely on Thunderbolt or whatever else to damage. So I will give it points for creativity, but otherwise, I'm a little disappointed by this, and I would have rather had a move that just does 90 damage physical, 90 physical damage, 100% accuracy as an electric move, because there is no good physically damaging move on the electric side, or for electric, that isn't detrimental. Like, there is I forget what, I think it's called Volt Tackle? There's some physically damaging, there's like 2 different physically damaging moves that are electric that hurt the user or negatively affect the user in some way, that aren't even that strong for it to have that excuse. Well, at least one of them isn't. Or that negative effect. It's just so bad. And then there's plenty of great, and there's a handful of great electric moves that are special. So my point being that the creator could have made a great physical move for any mon that for some reason, any electric mon that for some reason hits harder physically than specially, so that you're not just using Thunderbolt or Thunder as your main attacking moves. And let's be honest, you're basically just going to go with Thunderbolt, right? So, like I said, this is great for creativity-wise, but not really a practical use if you could just one-shot something or two-shot something without this, but, you know, just Thunderbolt or whatever. But yeah, the potential was lost there. Also, I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but I don't want to give too much away right now because then I'll basically just steal the explanations for the other moves. But there are some other moves here that do a certain thing that the creator could have just done the same for this typing, and he chose not to for some reason. And we'll get to that once we talk about one of them. So if he didn't go for my suggestion of the, you know, having the 90 base power as physical damage move, he could have at least done that, and he didn't. So it's kind of an L in both directions. Like either way, he could have done one of those two things, and he didn't. And he instead did this, which, like I said, is creative, but it's just almost not worth using most of the time. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in the top of C tier, actually. Like the top, because it still has potential, but it could have just been better. Alright, so the next one is Pollen Blast for the grass typing. It's a special move with 85 power and 100% accuracy, so decent. The user releases a bunch of pollen, creating grassy terrain on super effective hit. Okay, so automatically we're talking about one of those typings that I mentioned. So there is a few different terrain types, right? There is grassy terrain, there is psychic terrain, and there's electric terrain. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's it. I think it's like the only 3 terrain types. Maybe there's a 4th that I can't think of off the top of my head. But, so, if we jump real quick, we have Manifest Zone, which does the exact same thing as just for psychic instead of grass. And they're both 85 power with 100% accuracy. They're both special, right? The user manifests psychic energy. Psychic terrain is formed on super effective hit. They're literally copy and paste the same thing, just for different types, right? So the creator, like I said, for the electric typing, could have done the exact same thing: 85 damage, 100 accuracy, special, and creates electric terrain if it's a super effective hit. Missed opportunity, and I already put this in its tier, so that's fine. I'm gonna put both of these in A tier because it's pretty good. Grass has the most potential because it hits more things super effectively than Psychic does. So hitting hard is already great, right? So if you have 85 base power and, you know, obviously you have plus stab, and you're hitting something neutrally, that's fine, right? But if you're hitting something super effectively, I mean, it might kill that. But if you're fighting more than one Pokemon, after that faints, you know, the next thing comes in, they're kind of in a shittier, the next thing that comes in is kind of in a shittier situation because you hit that first thing super effectively. Now you have grassy terrain, which helps you, and technically it helps both sides because it's kind of like a leftovers at the end of every turn, but it more so helps you because it just boosts your grass moves, right? And if they don't have grass moves, even if they do, it's not hitting you super effectively ever. So it's never worth using for them, and it's obviously worth using for you more than half the time. And then the same applies for Psychic. It's just more so for Grass, because like I said, Grass has more things that it can hit super effectively than Psychic does. So that's why Grass is here higher than Psychic, but just barely so. This is great. Actually... You know what? I should do it like that, actually. Because, I mean, the terrains are just going to be more helpful than possibly burning the target. So I actually have to do that. But yeah. So all in all, pretty good, right? Alright, next thing. What is this? Ice. So, the user coats the foe in ice. This move is a high critical hit rate. So, special attack, decent damage, and a high crit hit chance. That's pretty great. All in all, great. Obviously, it's going to go in A tier. I might even put it higher than fire. Not sure, though. I feel like you could make a justification for either way of putting this, with either fire going first or ice going first. I think fire is perfect for what it is, aside from the fact that it could do higher damage or just burn, have a better chance of burning, like I said. That's the only way I could improve on that. Speaking of improving, the only thing I could improve on these two is just giving them higher damage. That's pretty much it. Or maybe making them physical, just so that physical type or physical mons of these typings could have a, you know, a good move to use, because there isn't too many good physical versions of or physical moves for these typings. But it's all right. They're fine. That's pretty much it. Anyways, so back to this. This does slightly less damage. It could have been physical, like I said, because there's Ice Beam already exists. Ice Beam does 90 damage. It doesn't do anything else. It can freeze, but freezing in this game doesn't work exactly like it does in regular games. It's basically like in Legends Arceus, where it doesn't freeze you. It just, I actually forget what. Oh yeah. So what it does in this version, it's basically like the opposite of burn, where instead of having your attack, halving your attack, it halves your special attack. I don't know if it also has a chance for you to not move. I don't know. I'll have to check that out eventually, but I believe that's how that works. So that's cool, and it's a nice idea. But anyways, I feel like this has the missed opportunity of it could have been physical, because there's an okay amount, or the physical ice moves are okay, but like it would have been better, because like I said, you already have Ice Beam for the special attackers, so you didn't really need to make this a special move. It could have been physical, so that's why I'm going to make it lesser than, or like on the lower side of A versus the fire version, because this, like, this is nearly perfect. But because these are technically better, I guess I gotta put it in A tier, or top of A tier. But yeah, so the next one, the user performs various techniques, boosting attack, special attack, and speed. This is the fighting move called Step Up. So basically, this is Dragon Dance, but you know, like a nicer version of it, where it boosts your both forms of attack. So no matter what type of attacker you are, you're always going to get value out of this. And of course, it boosts your speed as well. So it's a +1 for attack, special attack, and speed. Really great. Obviously, it's not a damaging move, which is fine for what it does. You know, it's a setup move, so that makes sense. So with that being said, I don't really have a suggestion for this. If it did like 20 damage or something, that would be my suggestion. Like do a tiny little bit of damage, just to, you know, help you out. Kind of like Power Up Punch. So don't make it. Power Up Punch is 40 base damage. You can make this 20 just because it's boosting multiple different things. That, if anything, would be my suggestion, but you don't have to do that. Like, that's what I'm saying, if anything, because this is already good in its own right. Obviously, like, you know, they decided to go with not a damaging move, but a setup move, so that's pretty cool. It doesn't always have to be a damaging move, although that obviously is the most helpful thing for the beginning of the game. But it is what it is. So, I would put this at the top of B tier, if not bottom of A. Just because there's like nothing really wrong with it, but like I said, the best thing for you in the beginning is just a nice damaging move, just to help you out. Setup moves are better for late game, if anything, or at least mid game. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of A. Alright, the next thing. The user releases toxic gas, potentially poison the target. It's called Miasma, and it's for the poison typing category. So it does great damage, 80 damage with 100% accuracy, and it is a special attack. So for poison, it already has decent damaging moves. You have Poison Jab for physical, and you have Sludge Bomb and Sludge Wave for special. Sludge Wave is if you want to hit both targets if you want to hit multiple targets in a double battle, and Sludge Bomb is just single. Um, so you have decent choices no matter which type of attacker you are to use. So this is just another thing. With this being special, it's not as good as if it would have been physical, in my opinion, because Poison Jab is like the only good thing, and I can't remember exactly how much damage it does, but I believe Poison Jab is either like 70 or 80 damage. So if anything, you could have made this 90 damage with it being physical, and that would have been on par with Sludge Bomb and Sludge Wave, where Sludge Bomb I want to say is 90 damage and Sludge Wave is 95. But other than that, it's fine. And it says potentially poison the target. I have not played with a poison save yet, a poison type gym, so I don't know if this is just bad wording and it actually just always poisons. If this always poisons, then it's really great, obviously. But more likely than not, we can just trust the wording and it just has a chance of poisoning like any other poison attack move that isn't, specifically made for like, oh, this is a higher chance of poison. Just like a normal poison type move that always has a chance of poisoning, just like any type of fire move has a chance of burning. That low 10%, 15% chance, whatever it is. So with that being said, it's basically on par with the ice one, except the ice one has a chance of crit hitting. And like I said, it's not as great as the fire one, which actually, does physical, and we already talked about that. I'm going to restate that. So, if anything, I would put this like right here, maybe in front of this. I don't know. Yeah, probably like that. All right, Landscape. It's a ground move. It only has 5 PP. I didn't even talk about PP up to this point. So if we're looking at the PP real quick of everything else, 20 PP is great for a setup move. You only need to use this like 6 times at most per battle. Well, technically a little more if they're like somehow minus attacking you with growl or whatever. But yeah, that's really great. The fact that this is in 10 PP is crazy, but it's fine. 20 is great. This is the one that has 5 PP. The other lowest one is 10 PP with Liberation, but you only need to click that once every 5 turns, so it's perfectly fine with it being at 10. This only being 5 and being a damaging move and only being 70 power is already not good, but let's go ahead and read what it does. So it's physical, 70 power, 100% accuracy. The user attacks while destroying the terrain, does double damage if it destroys anything. So the great thing is, I haven't played with a ground save, so I can't say for certain, but just going off of the description, this should hopefully still work, even if there is nothing to destroy. So if there is no terrain, if there is no stealth rocks or whatever on the ground, hopefully this will still do something. But there's a chance that it doesn't. I don't know. But let's just assume that it does for argument's sake, right? So this doing 140 damage if there is terrain is awesome, right? That's great. But otherwise, doing 70 damage, that's alright. I can understand balancing it to be 70 instead of 90 base power, 80 base power, because doing 160 or 180 damage it's a little too much versus the 140. The 140 is already a lot for, like, the small drawback of having 5 PP. You're not going to need to use this many times, although I would still make this 10 PP at the very least, because if you can use it as a normal damaging move, that'd be great to have, especially in the beginning, until you get another ground move like Magnitude or Earthquake, which is later in the game. You're gonna want to have this as an option, and only having 5 PP really sucks. So yeah, I would make this 10. And again, if for some reason this move will fail if there is no terrain, then obviously it just goes down at least 1 tier by that. And but also at that point, then the 5 PP kind of makes sense, because you're rarely using it at that point. But I will put this at the bottom of B. That's fine. Actually, we'll put it above Dredge, just barely. I feel like just having only 5 PP is so bad. Alright, the next one, Tornado. The user forms a tornado that tears apart hazards, bindings, and terrain. So it doesn't do any extra damage if there is those things, but it still gets rid of those, which is great. And it does good damage, and I have played with a flying gym save, so I know that this works regardless of terrain or not. And it's great that it's physical. There is no... I mean... There is no good, or there's no great physically damaging flying move in the regular games, except for maybe acrobatics, but that requires you to not hold an item, which can be detrimental to you. So I'm really happy that the creator decided to make this a physically damaging move, because there's plenty of there's an decent amount of special attacking moves for the flying type, but not for physical. So, like I said, really happy with that. And of course, the side effect of being able to destroy hazards, bindings, and terrain is awesome. Even though flying types aren't, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not really affected by terrain. They don't get boosted by terrain. They probably are still, like, whatever is attacking the flying type, if they are boosted by the terrain, will probably still hit them with that boost. But the flying types do not ever get terrain boost because they're not touching the ground. Unless they get smacked down with, the move Smackdown. But whatever. So that's very niche. Anyways, so it's great that they have a way of getting rid of that, and this is also great for the beginning, just to have, especially if your starter is a physical attacker. So all in all, really good. Isn't the best, out of everything here, but it's a top contender. I would put it probably like right here, honestly. Really good, really, really good. And the only way I could think to make it better is to give it higher damage, like 85, 90 would be pretty fine, but that's pretty much it. Alright, Bug. The user, it's called Hive Mind. It's 85 damage, 100% accuracy. It's a special attack. The user and its allies assail the foe mentally, may confuse the target. So I don't know if this is just bad wording and it always procs confusion, assuming that they're not confused yet. If so, that bumps it up. If not, if it just has a chance, then that's fine, and that's normal. It's whatever. 10 PP is okay. Could have been 15 or 20. That would have been better for just a decent damaging move. Even if you remove the whole chance of confusing, it's decent damage, and it's on the special side, which, for bug moves, it doesn't really matter what typing, or not typing, but what category the creator decided to go with, whether it be physical or special, because there's good moves for both. The ones that come to mind are X-Scissor, or X-Scissor. For physical, it does 80 damage, and that's it. It's just base 80 damage for bug type. And then there's Pollen Puff or Bug Buzz, which both do 90 damage. But Pollen Puff is special in the fact that if you can target your ally with it, and if you do, instead of damaging your ally, it heals your ally for half of its power. So it heals 45 damage worth. So instead of damaging it, heals whatever. So with that in mind, like, because it has those, it's alright that it's special. I still would have made this physical, just because X-Scissor is basically the best physically attacking move that's consistent. So with Pollen Puff and Bug Buzz being 90 damage, they could have made this 90 as well, but physical, just to go be on par with those, so that if you are, using a physical Bugmon, which there are plenty of, then they can have something to work with, and then the special attacking Bugmons can just go with the normal special bug moves. So that's already an L right there, but otherwise it's okay. And again, the 10 PP is pretty sad. It could have been 15 or 20. And the chance of confusing is mid because confusion doesn't always work. It's like a 33% chance that the user hits themselves in confusion. Um, so it is what it is. It's not the worst thing, but it's not the best thing by a long shot. So I would put it probably like that. Yeah, it's not bad. All right, the next thing. The user puffs toxic minerals at the foe, obtaining, potentially poisoning the target. This is the rock signature rock move. It's physical, and it's on par with a move called Power Gem. Power Gem is made by the official Pokemon creators, um, which is a special move that does 80 damage. So it's basically the same thing. Just that Power Gem doesn't have that secondary effect of having a chance to poison, so that's unique to what the creator designed here. Um, Other than that, the majority of rock moves are physical. So in my opinion, they could have went with 90 base power special move, but that's it is what it is. Because the majority of mons that are rock type are physical attackers, I'm actually okay with this being physical, and it's decent damage, and the chance of poisoning is a nice bonus. It's kind of random because this is for rock typings, but I would never complain if I had that happen where I used this move and actually poisoned the foe. Um, so yeah, it's not bad at all. I'm not putting in B. I'm just putting over here to. Anyways, um, the fact that it's only 10 PP instead of 15 or 20 is an L, but otherwise it's pretty good. I would put poisoning above. Yes, I would put poisoning above confusion. But it's a little. They're pretty much neck and neck because this does 85 damage, this does 80. But yeah, I think this is pretty good. All right, the next one. It is Spirit Away. It is for the ghost typing. It has a 90% accuracy. So everything up until this point was either guaranteed to happen, um, like these two, or 100% accuracy. So if you get minus accuracy by some move, they have a chance to miss. Otherwise, they should hit no problem. Type shit. But this is the first one, and the only one that has a chance to miss on its own. It's 90%, so that's still good. But it's kind of weird how it's the only one that has a chance of missing, like right off rip. But anyways, it's 10 PP, which is it's whatever. Could have been more. Could have been better. And it's a special move. And the description is the user switches the target out for another Pokemon in its party. In the wild, the battle ends. So if you're trying to catch a wild Pokemon, do not use this move because you will just ruin the whole thing. But if you're trying to use it to flee a wild Pokemon, you could just run instead. I mean, the only reason to do this. There's no reason to do this against a wild mon. There's almost no reason for that. So, barring that, obviously, if you're in a trainer battle, you're not going to end the battle by doing this. So, the only reason to click this move in a trainer battle is, in my opinion, is if whatever you're facing is using a setup move against you. So if they're swords dancing or dragon dancing or anything like that, use this move to fuck that up, switch it out, and bring something else in. It doesn't say that this move has negative priority, but I'm going to assume it does. So this is basically the move Roar from Pokemon, where it forces the enemy to switch out, and I believe in the wild Pokemon setting, it just gets rid of the wild Pokemon. But the benefit of this is that it actually does some damage versus roar that does no damage. But I have not played with this, so I don't know if it has negative priority. If it is just, roar with damage, then I'm going to assume it does have negative priority. Because if this does not have negative priority and you are faster, you're just basically taking away their move from them. Like their chance to move, their chance to do something. So most likely this will be negative priority. So keep that in mind if you go for this. I would put this... Like I said, the only good reason to use this is if the enemy is setting up against you. And so in the beginning of the game, it's not helping you because it's not a nice damaging move that can help you as you're progressing through the game. And in the very beginning of the game, there are no good setup moves that your enemy mons are going to be using, except for like maybe Howl, which is whatever, which is not that big of a deal. They're wasting a turn doing that. In the meantime, you're just attacking them, right? So there's no real point. This is basically useful maybe later in the game if the enemy mons have setup moves. Otherwise, no real point. So for that reason, I'll put it in D tier. Something needs to go in D tier, and if anything's gonna go in D tier, it's gonna be this one. So it's just got niche uses and yeah. Ooh. Alright, we got to the dragon one. So, Dragon's Wrath is a great move. It does 90 damage with 100 accuracy. The user coats their fangs in draconic energy, inflicts physical or special damage, whichever will be more effective. So, it says category physical, but I believe it's literally either or both. It's just, dependent on the mon that you're using. Now, I could be wrong, and it's possible that this is regarding the enemy mon's defenses, so if it's more special defensively tanky, it'll hit them physically, and vice versa, and that it is a physical move regardless, or this is a physical move if you're a physical attacker, and a special move if you're a special attacker. I'm not 100% on this. So I don't know exactly which way it does that, or which way it looks at that, but regardless, it's a great move that's versatile and useful on all your dragons. The moves that are similar to this in the base game are Dragon Claw, which is 80 damage, 100% accuracy, and no secondary effect, and Dragon Pulse, which is 85. And sorry, Dragon Claw is physical, and Dragon Pulse, which is special, which is 85 damage, 100% accuracy, and no secondary effect. So this is already like a bump up from both of those, and so that's great. And you start, you start off with this, which is just really fantastic and helpful because Dragon hits nothing super effectively except for itself, so other dragons. So it's great to have something to guaranteed have a counter against whatever you're facing that is a dragon. And if it's not a dragon, then at least it's doing decent damage. 90 damage against something that is never super effective is alright. Especially with stab, it makes it 90 plus 45, so that's really good and really helpful because, again, it's not going to be super effective unless it's against other dragons. So yeah, I have nothing but praise for this, basically. It's well designed, I love it, and it puts most of the other types signature moves to shame, honestly. I would put this at the top of A, if not an S. I'd probably put it in S, honestly. Just because these actually have more of a chance of hitting something super effectively because they hit other things, like more other things super effectively, and their damage is close, and they give you terrain. That's why they are going to be better, because they have all these, things that make them better than Dragon, because like I said, Dragon only hits Dragon super effectively, unfortunately. So because of that, and because there's no terrain or atmosphere, because technically there is I believe it's called intense atmosphere, and that boosts fighting and dragon and maybe dark or something like that, but it boosts those types. So if this somehow also gave you the intense atmosphere that helped with dragon moves, then I would put it at the top of S tier, no question. But because it doesn't do that, and because these do that where they give you the terrain, that's why I'll put them higher, unfortunately. And I say this unfortunately because, I say this with the word unfortunately, because Dragon is my favorite typing, but I have to be objective here, and these ones that are higher than it are technically better. Alright, next one. Although this move has great power, it only works the first turn the user is in battle, and it's called False Start, and it's 90 power, 100% accuracy, physical. So this is for the dark typing, if I didn't say that already. So basically this is a overtuned version of Fake Out, which is a normal move that does 40 damage physically. It has a chance of one-shotting plenty of things, especially in the beginning of the game, with it being 90 power, as long as it actually hits something neutrally at the very least. So that's cool. And the downside, of course, is that you can't use this more than once, but the great thing is that as long as your mons can learn this, which I have not played with the dragon save. Sorry, not dragon. I've not played with the dark save, so I can't say for certain, you know, which one of your mons actually, or which dark mons can and cannot learn this. I don't know. But if you can't, let's just say, for argument's sake, that at least 90% of the dark mons that you find in the wild can use this, can learn this. It's great to have it on your whole team where, you know, whenever you switch something in, or let's say one of your mons faints and then your next mon comes in, without question, without fail, you can click this and just get free damage, and there you go. Even if that mon is a special attacker, even if it has minus attack, 0 attack IVs, whatever, you can get free damage, and that's pretty cool, right? It has 10 PP. It might as well have 5 because of how infrequently you could use this, unless you really just swapped out and swapped back in and just, you know, gave them two free turns just so you could have your one free turn. Like, it's not worth, right? So 10 PP is all right. It's fine. But and the damage is great, but like I said, the worst part is that you can only use this once, which is fine. I mean, if you could use this all the time, then that would be broken as hell. You know, if it works like Fake Out, where it's priority and causes them to flinch and everything. Although it doesn't say that. Me and my friend, we're just assuming it works like Fake Out. Like I said, I have not played with this. If it does, then it's really great. If not, then and you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, why? But with the presumption that this works exactly like Fake Out, just dark version and higher damage, we're going to put this basically. I think here is fine. Because it's nothing, you know, great. Like, these are consistent up here because you can use them all the time. You know, if you want to, if you have a reason to. But this, like we've seen, you can only use it once, and then you'd have to switch out or whatever. So, yeah, that's pretty fair. All right, for steel. The user, it's physical, 45 damage, 100% accuracy. The user grabs an item to use a high critical hit attack, doubling damage if the item is held. So you can cheese this by just giving your mon a Pokeball or any simple thing that does nothing while holding it except for boosting this to 90 to have a 90 base power attack, and then it has higher crit hit, which is really great. With that, it is better than Iron Head. As good as Meteor Mash, or technically better because it has a higher chance of critting and is 100% accuracy. So Iron Head and Meteor Mash are both physical. So that's how I'm comparing that right now. Like this, I'm comparing it to other physical moves. Obviously, like I said, you can hold the Pokeballs or any other useless item in the beginning of the game just to have that damage boost. You need to make it 90%, or not 90%, 90 damage. But once you get actual held items, you know, as you progress through the game that are better for whatever mon you're using, then it's obviously gonna be better. But just keep that in mind for if you're going with that. But at the same time, I have played with a steel playthrough or whatever, and with my experience, I've seen that about half, HALF, half of my steel type mons were able to learn this move. So it's not as great in that aspect, and I wish I could say give info on this for every other typing, Um, um, like for example, for Dragon, I know that I don't want to say 100% because I could be wrong about like I could be wrong, but like at least 90% of my Dragon mons were able to learn Dragon's Wrath. I've had little to no issues. I it's just a bad memory that's me telling you that I can't remember if it's 100% or not. But like that's great because Dragon's Wrath is a great move, and we've already talked about that. And the fact that it can be learned by all the mons is great. But I cannot say the same with certainty for all the other typings because I've not played with all of them. But I really remember the most between Dragon and Steel, and I remember that with Steel, only about half of the Steel type mons can learn this move, which already is a drawback. At the same time, the special version of a Steel type attack move that best compares with this is what's it called? It's not called Steel Beam. What's it called? Flash Cannon. Flash Cannon does 80 damage, 100% accuracy, and it's a special attacking move. So that's the closest thing to this, right? I'm okay with this being physical because the majority of Steel mons are physical. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're physical attackers. But it could have been cool if they made this special just so that the special attacking mons had something. But that's okay. I'm not too bad about that. If anything, I would really wish that the creator would have been more nice or freeing or whatever the heck word you want me to use here about the fact that only about half the Steel mons can learn this move to begin with. So, like, you kind of do have other options even though you can't learn this move, but it really sucks that you can't use your signature move on everybody, right? So, regarding its placement, though, I would put this... Because I know that not all your Steel mons can learn this, and this could be true for the other typing, so forgive me that I don't know that. I would put this like probably we could put it like in the middle of all these, like roughly there. If all of them could learn it, I would put it at the top of A, because 90 damage is really good, as long as you're holding an item, which, like we said, you can cheese by doing what I said. It's a decent placement either way. 8 tier is not bad. And the last one, the fairy type move called Mist Strike. 20 PP, which is great. It's especially for its damage, which is 85 damage physical with 100% accuracy. So this is really great. If we're just talking about the category real quick, you have a couple decent special attacking moves. Right off the top of my head, we know Dazzling Gleam, which does 80 power, special, and 100% accuracy. And what's the other one called? Moonblast, which does either 90 or 95, I can't remember. And I want to say Dazzling Gleam hits both targets, and Moonblast hits, just one. So you already have decent special attacking fairy moves, and the one good physical attacking fairy move is Play Rough, and that's 90 damage, 90 accuracy. So this being 85 damage, 100 accuracy is, really great because it's basically contending with Play Rough, and this is more consistent than Play Rough. And let's just look at the description here. The user attacks while covered in mist, generating misty terrain on a super effective hit. So this is basically... Okay, so I forgot about misty terrain. I'm sorry. So I knew there was one more type of terrain. I just couldn't remember what it was. So this is the last one here. So we automatically can put this up here where fairy types hit multiple different typing super effectively, being dragon, fighting, and something else. Dark. So 3 different things. And it'll give you the misty terrain after you hit one of those super effectively. And if not, even if you don't hit something super effectively, you're hitting it with 85 damage plus stab So as long as you have a decent physical attack stat, you'll be fine. If you're more of a special attacker, then 07. Sorry. But I am glad that this is a physical attacking move, because the special attacking mons, they'll have good options. They'll have dazzling gleam or moonblast to use, so that's perfectly fine. So yeah. I Fairy is my least. Well, that's not my least favorite typing, but it's among my least favorite typings, just because my favorite typing is Dragon, but that's a little bit of a bias. But as you can see here, I'm putting it above Dragon just because it's technically better because of the chance of creating misty terrain. As long as you're super effectively hitting, it's really great. So I mean, terrain really helps whatever typing that you associate it with. So it's great. So all in all, here's the tier list. Obviously, this is based on my opinions, and I'm sorry to say that this is not with full extensive research and whatever regarding every typing, but going off of vibes and going off of my little experience that I've had with this game and everything, this is what I came up with. If you have any suggestions or any changes that you would make or put anywhere, then let me know in the comments, or however you want to contact me, if for some reason you want to contact me differently. But yeah, thanks for watching, and goodbye.